cliche, but I will never forget the first time I saw The Exorcist. It was a life-changing experience that I will
Yeah.
never ever forget.
Soy Saad y hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial, David Midell, el director de El Exorcismo, El Ritual o The Ritual en inglés. Y pues vamos a tener una pequeña charla con él.
Bienvenidos al planeta del cine.
So I will start.
What really attracted me to this story in the first place, one of the things that I found the most fascinating about it and what really grabbed me emotionally was the fact that this is really a story about a woman who was suffering a lot. She was suffering a great deal. And the story is about a group of people who came together and put themselves at great risk to try to alleviate her suffering. Father Steiger and Father Theophilus and the nuns and the sisters came together and they sacrificed a lot. They put themselves at great personal risk, at great physical risk, and at great spiritual risk to try to help alleviate some of her suffering. And that's really what I wanted to convey, just as much as the scary horror elements of the film. I wanted to convey that sense that these people came together and sacrificed a lot to try to help this poor woman.
It's more human.
Yeah. Mhm. That was definitely one of the biggest challenges with the film, just given how many exorcism films have been out there, especially recently. A lot of great ones, a lot of exorcism films that I really, really love. What we tried to do differently was ground the film in more of a sense of reality than some of the other films. We the way we shot the film, the way I instructed the actors in their, the way I worked with the actors with their performances, the music, the production design, the sound, everything. We tried to make it feel almost as though it was a documentary where the people are holding the cameras standing next to the priests and the nuns, and they don't know what's going to happen ahead of time. The people who are holding the cameras are just trying to keep up with everything that's happening around them. That's the sense that we really wanted to give the film. And we were hoping that that would sort of differentiate it from a lot of the other films where, you can kind of sense what's going to happen ahead of time and those kinds of things. So we really tried to give this more of a sense of grounded reality.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, my next question is about that.
That was a very, very important part of it. And that's why I would encourage everyone to see the film in the theater rather than watching. It'll look great at home, it'll sound great at home, but in the theater, you can really hear all the detail and the nuance and the sound mix and the music and those kinds of things. So sound was an incredibly, incredibly important part of building that atmosphere. And I knew that this film would need a sound design and a sound mix that was rich and layered and textured and also felt grounded in reality. We didn't want to go super over the top with any of the the demonic manifestations or the voices. We wanted to keep it as grounded in reality as possible, but it is also a horror film, so we wanted elements of it to feel visceral for the audience. We wanted that visceral thrill. We wanted to give that to the audience because it is a horror film and it is hopefully going to get the adrenaline pumping and all those kinds of things.
I like just that. A good punch.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to do. Yeah, I mean, the research process is really what took the longest. Usually with the films I make, that's the part of the process that takes the longest because I really like to dive very deeply into the subject matter and make sure that I'm learning as much as possible about it, immersing myself in it. And it definitely was. There were times during the research process that I actually was scaring myself a little bit. If I was researching late one night alone at home, I would find that I'd be a little bit scared if there was a noise from the other room or something like that. That was a hugely important part of it. Doing the research. We also had the opportunity to speak with some actual exorcists. We had the opportunity to speak with many parish priests. The parish priest who actually he is the parish priest at the church where we shot the film. He was very, very generous with his time, really, really helped us understand, Catholic traditions in the 1920s and how certain rituals would have been performed, how certain customs would have been performed during the mass services and those kinds of things.
Do you believe in that kind of things?
I grew up Jewish. I grew up in a Jewish household. I was bar mitzvahed and everything. But my mom's side of my family is Catholic, so I had some proximity to Catholicism, and I've always been a very scientifically minded person. I always tend to look at facts and data, and I've always considered myself a very scientifically minded person. But one of the things that really fascinated me about this story was the unknown, the idea that what if there was something unspiritual instead of something scientific? What if it was both? What if there were some spiritual forces at play? I mean, that idea is both really, really fascinating and really, really terrifying to me. So I don't know. It's a more complicated question, but making this film has definitely caused me to consider those questions in my own life.
Yeah, I understand. I will do one last and we're over, okay?
Sure. Um, that's a great question. One of them is probably Castaway with Tom Hanks. That there's just something about that film that hits me on a very, very deep personal level. Another one would probably be United 93, which came out about 19 years ago now, and it deals with the September 11th attacks. And there's so many. I mean, it's a little bit of a cliche, but I would probably have to say The Exorcist. Especially given this film, it sounds
Yeah.
like a cliche, but I will never forget the first time I saw The Exorcist. It was a life-changing experience that I will
Yeah.
never ever forget.
I understand. Thank you for your time.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you for your answers.
Of course, nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too.